Welcome to Your Next English. You're listening to English Listening Practice, Football Legends Stories, where great football stories become a powerful way to improve your English. Here, you'll discover the incredible lives of football legends, their dreams, struggles, victories, and unforgettable moments. And while you enjoy every story, you're naturally strengthening your English listening, vocabulary, pronunciation, and comprehension. You'll hear clear, natural American English, helping you understand more, follow conversations, and build confidence as you listen. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let the story take you into the world of a football legend. Listen carefully, enjoy the journey, and get ready to discover a legend. Let's get started.
Who is Luis Suárez?
That is really the ultimate question, isn't it?
Right, because, if you think back to the summer of 2010, millions of people around the globe watched this man intentionally cheat on the world's biggest stage.
Yeah, the World Cup.
Exactly. He's caught, he's given a red card, and he's sent off the pitch literally crying in absolute despair. But then, just days later, he is being carried on the shoulders of his countrymen.
Hailed as a total national hero.
Right. So, who is he? Welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. We are thrilled to have you with us as we unpack one of the most fascinating, emotional, and frankly, controversial careers in football history.
It's a story that goes way beyond just sports. To some people, he is this footballing genius, a tactical mastermind, and, a deeply devoted family man.
That's others.
To others, he is the ultimate villain, a player synonymous with controversy, biting, and this ruthless, win-at-all-costs mentality that completely shatters the unwritten rules of sportsmanship.
And our mission today is to figure out why. We aren't just going to rattle off his trophies or, read you a stat sheet.
No, we really want to do a psychological and tactical breakdown here.
Exactly. By the end of this, you'll understand the why behind the headlines. How does a kid who played barefoot on these deeply impoverished streets in Uruguay become the centerpiece of the greatest attacking trio in football history?
And crucially, how does that same brilliant player suffer from these moments of sheer primal madness? Because to understand the player, you really have to understand the environment that forged him.
So let's jump right in. We have to start in Salto, Uruguay.
Yeah.
The year is 1987. Luis Alberto Suárez Diaz is born into a situation that, honestly, most of us listening to this probably can't even fathom.
No, not at all. It was a life of extreme, just grinding poverty.
Yeah.
Salto is the small city, mostly known for its scorching heat, and Suarez was the fourth of 7 boys.
7 boys. Wow.
Right. Just pause and imagine the sheer chaos of that. The competition for resources in a tiny house with 7 boys.
I can't even imagine the grocery bill, let alone anything else.
Exactly. His father, Rodolfo, worked as a porter, a soldier, and he played a bit of amateur football, too. His mother, Sandra, she worked as a cleaner at a really bustling central bus terminal, so they struggled daily just to keep food on the table.
And it wasn't just the poverty, right? Because the family dynamic completely fractured when Luis was only 9 years old. His parents separated.
Yeah, and for a 9-year-old kid, especially in a family that's already struggling just to survive, that kind of instability is psychologically devastating.
It has to be.
It's deeply traumatizing. When that family structure collapses under the weight of poverty, a child often has to grow up instantly. For Luis, this meant sweeping the streets. It meant watching parked cars just to earn a few coins to help his mother.
Just hustling to survive.
Constantly, and his escape was football. But he played completely barefoot on these rough, uneven streets.
Wait, totally barefoot?
Yeah, because his family could only afford 1 pair of shoes for him, his school shoes. He couldn't ruin them.
See, let me stop you there because I want to talk about the tactical impact of that. Playing barefoot on the street isn't just like a sad detail for a biography. It actually shapes how a player interacts with the ball, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When you play barefoot on a hard, unpredictable surface, your touch has become incredibly delicate. But at the same time, your balance has to be super aggressive.
Because you don't have cleats to dig into the ground.
Exactly. You learn to shield the ball with your entire body because you can't rely on grip. It builds this low center of gravity and a ferocious tenacity.
Right, because if you lose the ball on the street, you don't just casually jog back on defense.
No, you fight for it. It instills a literal survival mechanism into your muscle memory.
But despite that natural street talent, our sources note that he wasn't exactly this, polished prodigy being groomed for greatness.
Not at all.
When he joined the youth team at National in Montevideo, the coaches were actually super frustrated with him. They thought he lacked focus. He liked to party, he'd occasionally drink, and he just wasn't taking training seriously.
He was on a very dangerous trajectory. He had the street fighter mentality, but none of the professional discipline. He was essentially a lost kid, just completely lacking an anchor.
But then, at 15 years old, he finds that anchor.
He does. He meets a 13-year-old girl named Sophia Belby.
Okay, we really have to unpack this because this is where the story feels like it was written by a Hollywood screenwriter. Sophia comes from a slightly better off family, right? Her father worked in a bank.
Yeah, they were more middle class.
But what she actually gave Luis wasn't money. It was a sense of self-worth.
Precisely. For the first time in his entire life, someone outside of his chaotic family environment looked at him and saw real potential. She didn't see a street sweeper or a problematic youth player.
She saw him.
She saw someone who could achieve something. And she pushed him to study. She would genuinely get angry with him if he skipped classes. She effectively became his moral and motivational compass.
But wait, is his drive actually about a pure love for the sport of football? Or was football just a vehicle? Because our sources say that when Sophia's family moved to Barcelona, Spain, Suárez was utterly devastated.
He was crushed.
And he made a vow that the only way to get back to her was to become a pro and secure a transfer to Europe. It sounds like football was just a tool for survival and love.
That's a brilliant way to look at it, actually. If we examine his psychology at that exact moment, Sophia was his only stability. When she left, the ground fell out from under him again.
He had nothing.
Right. For a poor teenager in Uruguay, buying a transatlantic plane ticket was mathematically impossible. So football stopped being a game. It became a literal ticket across the ocean.
Wow.
The desperation he felt to reunite with her completely transformed his attitude on the pitch.
He used a football to cross an ocean. I mean, the sources mentioned he would sometimes walk 24 kilometers, that's about 15 miles, just to go see her when they both still lived in Uruguay.
Yeah, walking 15 miles for a visit.
That kind of obsessive determination doesn't just turn off when you step onto a football pitch.
It doesn't. And that vow materialized incredibly quickly. He broke into National's first team, and he started fighting for every single ball as if his life and his future with Sophia depended on it.
Because it did.
Exactly. He scores 10 goals in 27 games, and he helps them win the 2005-2006 Uruguayan League.
Which perfectly sets up one of the most unlikely scouting stories I've ever heard.
Oh, the Groningen trip.
Yes. So a guy named Henk Veldmate, who is the technical director for a Dutch club called FC Groningen, flies all the way to Uruguay. But here is the kicker, folks. He wasn't there to scout Luis Suárez.
No, he traveled halfway across the world to look at a completely different player.
Which is wild.
But during the match, this 19-year-old kid named Suárez catches his eye. He sees Suárez score a penalty, and then he watches him score an absolute wonderstrike.
So if I'm Veldmate, what exactly am I seeing in this 19-year-old that makes me abandon my original target and risk my club's entire budget?
You are seeing raw, unpolished, chaotic brilliance. Veldmate didn't just see the goals. He saw the hunger. He saw a player who pressed defenders relentlessly, who fought for every 50-50 ball with this terrifying intensity.
Right.
But here's the catch. National wanted $800,000 for him.
Now, for a massive club like Real Madrid or Manchester United, that's pocket change. But for FC Groningen...
For Groningen, it was actually over their entire transfer budget. It was the most expensive signing in the history of the club.
Oh, wow.
They were betting the house on a teenager they had discovered completely by accident.
But they roll the dice. They pay the $800,000. And suddenly, this 19-year-old kid who grew up sweeping streets in Salto is on a plane to the Netherlands. He has made it to Europe. He is one step closer to Sophia.
Yes.
But the arrival... it wasn't exactly smooth sailing, was it?
No, it was a massive culture shock. He arrives in the Netherlands overweight. He doesn't speak a single word of Dutch or English.
Ooh, that's tough.
And tactically, the Dutch style of football is highly structured, very focused on passing and positioning, that completely clashed with his instinctual street style.
So what do they do?
Groningen actually had to drop him into their reserve team initially.
That has to be infuriating for someone with his intense, burning drive. You finally make it to Europe, and you're stuck in the reserves, unable to even speak to your coach.
It easily could have broken him. But he had a crucial mentor, a teammate named Bruno Silva, who was also from Uruguay.
Ah, a lifeline.
Exactly. Silva took him under his wing, helped him navigate the food, the culture, the language, and just the general expectations of European football.
I really want to focus on this mentor aspect for a second. We talk so much about individual greatness in sports, but environment is everything.
Oh, 100%.
If Groningen hadn't been patient, or if Bruno Silva hadn't been in that dressing room, does Suarez just become another failed transfer statistic? Does he go back to Uruguay and we never hear his name again?
It's highly probable. The history of football is littered with incredibly talented South American teenagers who go to Europe, experience severe culture shock, fail to adapt, and are sent back home within a year.
It happens all the time.
Groningen provided the perfect incubator. They were patient enough to let him be chaotic while he learned.
And chaotic is definitely the right word. When he finally gets into the first team, he scores 15 goals in his debut season. But there is one specific 5-game stretch that our sources highlight, and it just perfectly encapsulates the Luis Suárez experience.
I know exactly the stretch you're talking about.
Right. In 5 games, he scores 4 goals. But he also gets 3 yellow cards and a red card.
What's fascinating here is that his psychological profile on the pitch was already completely solidified at 19.
How so?
He was playing every single match like it was a literal fight for survival. When you view every tackle, every missed pass, and every referee decision as a threat to your survival, a threat to your ticket to staying in Europe, your sympathetic nervous system goes into overdrive.
You are constantly in fight or flight mode.
Exactly. That explains the cards. He isn't just trying to win a game of football, he is defending his life.
And that intensity made him incredibly successful. But it also meant he outgrew Groningen almost immediately.
Yeah, within a single season.
Which leads to a very bitter exit. After just 1 season, Ajax, the biggest, most historic club in the Netherlands, comes calling. They bid $3.5 million. Groningen understandably says no. They want to keep their star player.
And how does Suarez react? He doesn't just accept it. He takes Groningen to a KNVB arbitration committee, which is essentially a sports court, to try and force the club to sell him.
He sues them.
Yes, he was that desperate for a bigger stage and for Champions League football.
It's so ruthless. I mean, the club takes a massive gamble on him, essentially saves his career, and the second a bigger boat comes along, he takes them to court to let him on it.
It is ruthless. But it's totally consistent with his survival mentality.
Right.
Loyalty to a club was completely secondary to his ultimate goal of reaching the absolute pinnacle of the sport. Eventually, Ajax realizes they have to pay up, and they buy him for $7.5 million in the summer of 2007.
And at Ajax, he absolutely explodes into a global superstar. We're talking 111 goals in 159 matches.
Incredible numbers.
He wins the Dutch Cup, he wins the Eredivisie, and he becomes the club captain. And most importantly, the promise is fulfilled.
Yes. The vow he made as a devastated teenager in Uruguay finally comes to fruition. He marries Sofia, and they have their first child.
He achieved everything.
Everything he set out to do. He has the money, the status, the family, the love of his life.
Which makes what happens next so incredibly baffling. Here is where the story takes a really dark turn. While he is captaining this legendary club, seemingly a total peace in his personal life, we see the first manifestation of his darkest demon.
Yeah. In November 2010, during a highly charged match against their rivals, PSV Eindhoven, there's a scuffle on the pitch. Players are pushing and arguing.
Pretty standard stuff for a rivalry game.
Right. Suarez gets right into the face of a PSV player named Otman Bakal. And then he leans in and he bites Bakal on the shoulder.
Okay, I have to push back on this because here's where it gets really interesting to me. Why biting?
It's bizarre.
Football is a violent sport. Players throw elbows, they break each other's legs with terrible tackles, they headbutt people. But biting is so intimate. It is so strange. What is the psychological mechanism that makes a grown man, a multi-millionaire club captain, bite someone?
It is one of the most debated psychological anomalies in sports history. Sports psychologists have suggested that it is a profound regression to an infantile state of frustration.
Like a toddler.
Exactly. Think about it. When a toddler cannot express their anger verbally or feels completely powerless, what do? They bite.
So you're saying that under extreme stress, his brain literally short-circuits and bypasses all of his adult civilized conditioning.
That is the leading theory. When the stakes are incredibly high and he feels a sudden loss of control, maybe the team is losing, maybe he is being physically dominated by a defender, his amygdala completely hijacks his rational brain. The civilized, professional captain of Ajax disappears, and the desperate kid fighting for survival on the streets takes over. But instead of throwing a punch, which is a calculated act of aggression, he bites, which is a purely instinctual, primal reaction of a trapped animal.
It is fascinating and terrifying at the same time. He is suspended for 7 matches for the bite. But, irony of ironies, While he is sitting at home serving a suspension for biting an opponent, one of the biggest clubs in the world decides they want to buy him.
Yep. In January 2011, Liverpool Football Club in the English Premier League swoops in and signs him for $22.8 million.
And this begins what has to be the most statistically ridiculous, thrilling, and ultimately toxic period of his entire career.
Liverpool is the perfect stage for him. It's a historic working-class club with a highly emotional fan base. They appreciate players who bleed for the shirt.
And Suárez delivered immediately. Let's talk about the numbers first, because they are staggering. Team-wise, he only won one trophy there, the League Cup in 2012.
But individually, he scored 82 goals in 133 appearances.
And we really have to deeply analyze the 2013-2014 season.
The 2013-14 season is arguably the greatest individual season by a player in Premier League history. He scored 31 goals in 33 games.
And let's clarify why that is so mind-blowing for our listeners. First, equaling the scoring record in fewer games. But second, our sources point out he did this with 0 penalty kicks.
That is the crucial detail. Usually, a striker who wins the Golden Boot gets 5, 6, maybe 7 goals from penalties. They are essentially free goals.
Right.
Suárez scored 31 goals purely from open play and free kicks. He was awarded the PFA Player of the Year and shared the European Golden Shoe with Cristiano Ronaldo.
I want to understand the how, though. Tactically, our sources describe him at Liverpool as a one-man swarm. What does that actually mean? How do you play like a swarm of bees all by yourself?
It's a brilliant description of his physical output. At Liverpool, especially under manager Brendan Rodgers, the tactical setup often relied on counterattacks. When Liverpool won the ball back deep in their own half, they would just launch it forward.
Okay.
And Suárez often had 40 meters of open green grass between him and the opponent's goal, usually isolated against 2 massive central defenders.
So he didn't have a lot of help up front.
Not compared to what he had later in his career, no. A one-man swarm means he did the pressing of 3 players. He would close down the center back, force an error, win the ball, dribble past the second defender, and score.
He was everywhere.
He was constantly buzzing, constantly harassing, never stopping his physical output.
I picture it like a lead singer in a band who realizes the rest of the band forgot their instruments. So he decides to play the guitar, bang the kick drum with his foot, and sing at the same time.
That's pretty accurate.
It's a spectacular performance, but it is deeply exhausting to watch. He carried the entire weight of that massive club on his back.
And carrying that much weight, combined with his already volatile psychology, led to immense pressure. And when Suárez is under pressure, the demons come out.
Right. We have to address the controversies, and we are going to do this strictly by reporting what our sources state. First, there was a highly publicized racial abuse incident with Manchester United defender Patrice Evra in late 2011.
Yes. An independent regulatory commission found Suárez guilty of using abusive and/or insulting words towards Evra, which included a reference to Evra's color. Suárez was handed an 8-match ban and a massive fine.
And then, incredibly, the biting returned. In a match against Chelsea in 2013, he tangled with defender Branislav Ivanovic, and he bit Ivanovic on the arm.
Just unbelievable.
The referee missed it during the game, but the cameras caught it, resulting in a 10-match ban.
This is where the duality of the man becomes almost impossible to reconcile for the British media and the fans.
Yeah.
You have a player who is producing moments of pure, unadulterated athletic genius on a weekly basis, dragging his team to the brink of a Premier League title, yet he is simultaneously self-destructing in the most bizarre and indefensible ways possible.
It is the ultimate paradox. He finishes the 2013-2014 season in tears as Liverpool famously collapses in the final weeks and loses the title to Manchester City. He is physically and emotionally drained.
Totally spent.
The media scrutiny in England is suffocating him. And where does he go next? The 2014 World Cup in Brazil.
And this brings us to his relationship with the Uruguayan national team La Celeste. Because if you think his club career is dramatic, his international career is a Shakespearean tragedy and triumph rolled into one.
Let's set the stage. He is Uruguay's all-time top scorer with 69 goals and 142 caps. But to understand what happens in 2014, we actually have to rewind to the 2010 World Cup in South Africa because it establishes exactly how he views his duty to his country.
The 2010 quarterfinal against Ghana is perhaps the most famous or infamous moment of his international career.
Paint the picture for us. It's the very last minute of extra time. The score is tied 1-1. Ghana has a free kick.
The ball is whipped into the box. There is a massive scramble. A Ghanaian player heads the ball toward the empty net. The goalkeeper is completely beaten. If that ball crosses the line, Ghana wins. They become the first African nation in history to reach a World Cup semifinal. The entire continent is holding its breath.
But standing on the goal line is Luis Suárez. And instead of trying to head it away, he literally acts like a volleyball player. He swats the ball off the line with his hands.
It is an immediate red card. The referee points to the penalty spot. Suarez is sent off, walking down the tunnel in floods of tears, believing he has just cost his country the World Cup.
But then, and you really can't write this, Ghana's star player Asamoah Gyan steps up to take the penalty and smashes it against the crossbar. He misses.
And the cameras cut to Suarez in the tunnel, and he is celebrating wildly, just pumping his fist. Uruguay goes on to win the ensuing penalty shootout.
That single moment ignited a massive global debate about sportsmanship versus utilitarianism. In Uruguay, Suarez was instantly canonized as a national hero.
Oh, totally.
He made the ultimate sacrifice. He broke the rule, accepted the ultimate punishment, a red card and a suspension, so that his team could have a 1% chance of survival.
I really want the listener to sit with this for a second. If you are standing on that goal line, you are representing your country. Your family is watching. You know that if you use your hands, you will be expelled. You'll be vilified. You'll miss the semifinal.
Yeah.
But if you don't, your country goes home. Would you do it?
It's the trolley problem of football. For Suarez, with his survival at all costs mentality, it wasn't even a choice. It was an instinct. He did what he had to do to survive. And it worked.
And he also wins the Copa America for Uruguay in 2011, being named player of the tournament. So he's a legend back home.
Right. Which brings us fast forward to the 2014 World Cup. He is coming off the unbelievable Liverpool season. He just had knee surgery, but he rushes back to play. He scores 2 brilliant goals to knock England out of the tournament.
And then comes the final group stage match against Italy.
Uruguay needs to win to advance. The game is incredibly tense, very physical.
Yeah.
And in the 79th minute, Suarez is in the penalty box with Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini.
And the demon returns.
For the third time in his professional career, Luis Suarez bites an opponent. He bites Chiellini on the shoulder.
The images were broadcast to billions of people. Chiellini pulling down his shirt to show the literal bite marks. It was a global scandal.
While the Ghana handball had some philosophical debate around it, this was completely indefensible.
FIFA's reaction was unprecedented. They didn't just ban him from international matches, they handed down a 9-match international ban, but critically, a 4-month ban from all football-related activities. He couldn't play for his club, he couldn't train with his team, he couldn't even enter a football stadium as a spectator for 4 months.
He was completely exiled from the sport, and the financial fallout was massive. Our sources note that 888 Poker terminated their sponsorship contract with him immediately. Adidas held crisis meetings. He was universally condemned as the biggest villain in global sports.
Think about his psychology in that moment, though. Football was his ticket out of poverty. It was his connection to his wife. And now, because of his own uncontrollable primal rage, it has been completely stripped away from him. He is back to having nothing.
But this is where the story takes its most unbelievable pivot. He is disgraced, banned, unable to even step foot on a training pitch. And it is in this exact moment that the biggest, most glamorous club in the world throws him a $64.8 million lifeline.
FC Barcelona, the club of his teenage dreams, the city where Sofia's family moved all those years ago.
It's wild.
Barcelona decides that his talent is worth the immense PR nightmare, and they buy him from Liverpool.
And this move completely reinvents his legacy. He joins Barcelona and forms a front three with Lionel Messi and Neymar. The media dubbed them MSN.
And MSN is widely considered the greatest attacking trio in the history of the sport. The numbers they put up over 3 seasons are almost comical. 364 goals.
Let me repeat that for everyone. 3 guys. 364 goals. In the 2014-2015 season alone, they scored 122 goals and won the Treble La Liga, the Copa del Rey, and the Champions League.
And Suarez was not just a sidekick in this trio. In the 2015-16 season, he won the Pichichi, the award for the top scorer in Spain, by scoring 40 league goals.
He actually broke the Messi-Ronaldo duopoly that had controlled that award for nearly a decade.
He really did.
But I want to dig into the tactics here, because moving from Liverpool to Barcelona is a massive stylistic shift. How does the one-man swarm, who needs 40 meters of open space, adapt to Barcelona's tiki-taka passing game?
It requires a profound evolution in his footballing intelligence. Barcelona's style, deeply rooted in positional play, is all about short passes, controlling possession, and breaking down deep, packed defenses.
Right.
Suarez himself noted the shock of the transition. He said he had to learn to play in a 10 by 10 meter box.
So instead of running into open fields, he is playing in a phone booth. How did he do it?
He became the ultimate sacrificial piece, the physical focal point. Messi and Neymar were the delicate, brilliant playmakers who needed space. Suarez provided that space by occupying the central defenders.
Instead of wrestling with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He would constantly wrestle with the huge center backs, pinning them deep in the penalty area, or making aggressive dummy runs that drag defenders out of position.
So I want to use a metaphor here. Think of a highly complex lock on a vault. MSN is the lock-picking mechanism. Suarez is the heavy, rigid tension wrench.
Oh, I like that.
Right? He applies brutal, constant pressure to the lock, forcing the heavy pins, the defenders, to stay exactly where he wants them. He is doing the grueling, unseen work, and because he is applying that tension, it creates tiny, microscopic gaps.
I know.
And that allows Messi and Neymar, the delicate lock picks, to slide in and snap the lock open.
That is a brilliant analogy. He did the gritty, physical work that allowed their artistry to shine. But there is another crucial element to why MSN worked, and it wasn't just tactical, it was psychological.
Right, because normally when you put three massive global superstars together, three guys who are used to being the main man, taking all the free kicks, getting all the glory, the egos clash, and the whole thing explodes. Why didn't MSN explode?
Because of genuine humility and friendship off the pitch. All three of them came from South America. They bonded over their shared culture. They famously had regular BBQs together with their families. They drank mate together.
That off-pitch brotherhood translated directly onto the field.
It really did. You would see moments where Messi, on a hat trick, would pass the ball to Suarez for a tap-in just to ensure Suarez won the Golden Boot. You would see Suarez constantly looking to set up Neymar. They celebrated each other's success.
Which is so rare at that level.
Extremely rare. When the best players in the world are willing to completely suppress their egos for the benefit of the group, they become unstoppable. The MSN era eventually ended when Neymar moved to PSG for a world record fee, but by then, Suarez had cemented himself as one of the greatest strikers in Barcelona's history.
Which brings us to the final chapters of his career and a closer look at the man off the pitch. After Barcelona, the club essentially decided he was too old and let him go in 2020.
And in classic Suarez fashion, driven by a deep sense of rejection and a need to prove people wrong, he joined their domestic rivals, Atlético Madrid.
Of course he did.
And in his very first season, he scored 21 goals and dragged them to the La Liga title, essentially taking the championship right out of Barcelona's hands.
It's the ultimate revenge arc. And then, at 35 years old, he does something beautifully romantic. He makes an emotional return to his boyhood club, Nacional, in Uruguay.
The fans ran a massive social media campaign to bring him home, and he said he wanted his kids to see him play where it all started.
That's awesome. Following that, he had a highly successful stint in Brazil with Grêmio, and eventually reunited with his best friend, Lionel Messi, at Inter Miami in MLS. And just recently, in September 2024, he officially retired from international football, leaving the pitch in a tearful farewell.
As we look back on his entire journey, our sources really highlight a stark contrast between his on-pitch persona and his off-pitch reality. The media painted him as a monster for years, but his humanitarian work tells a completely different story.
It really does. The list of his charitable acts is extensive. He famously donated 500 Christmas baskets of food and gifts to a children's hospital in Uruguay.
Yeah, and there was a viral moment where he surprised a young cancer patient via Skype call, pretending to be a doctor at first, before revealing himself and bringing the boy to tears of joy.
And there was the young fan with PKU, which is a rare metabolic disease. Suarez was visibly moved to tears when he met the boy, dedicated a goal to him, and championed a charity auction to fund research.
So how do we reconcile this? How do we understand a man who is so fiercely aggressive, who resorts to biting opponents in the heat of battle, yet is simultaneously capable of such deep, tearful empathy for sick children?
It's the burning question, what does this all mean? I think the answer is that you simply cannot separate the two. The intense emotional capacity that drives him to bite someone when he is frustrated is the exact same emotional capacity that causes him to weep when he sees a sick child.
Right.
It's the same overflowing passion. It just manifests differently, depending on whether he is fighting for survival or acting from a place of security.
That is a profound synthesis. We often want our sports heroes to be perfectly balanced, completely rational beings. But Luis Suárez is not rational. He is entirely driven by emotion.
Let's synthesize the core takeaways from this deep dive for our listeners. First, we have the incredible, almost terrifying power of determination. A kid with no shoes in Salto decided he was going to conquer Europe, and he willed it into existence.
Second, the impact of an anchor in life. Sophia Bulby was the catalyst. Without her belief in him and his desperate need to be with her, the street sweeper might never have become a professional.
And third, the concept of resilience. He made catastrophic, highly public mistakes. He faced global humiliation, severe bans, and the loss of sponsors. But every single time, he returned to the pitch, adapted his game, and scored more goals.
He proved that a legacy isn't defined by the absence of mistakes, but by the ability to survive them and reinvent yourself.
Digging into these deeply flawed, highly complex, real-life stories is the best way to understand human nature. We want to sincerely thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
And before we go, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. We spent this entire deep dive analyzing the chaos, the biting, the red cards, and tracing it all back to that desperate, win-at-all-costs survival instinct forged in the poverty of his childhood.
Right.
If you could go back in time and magically remedy that trauma, if you gave him a comfortable childhood and took away that dark, frantic desperation, would Luis Suárez still have been a footballing genius? Or do the darkest, most traumatic parts of our past sometimes act as the essential fuel for the absolute brightest points of our success?
That is an incredible question to ponder. Can you have the masterpiece without the madness? Thank you so much for listening. Keep questioning the stories you think you know, and we will see you on the next deep dive.